Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another monthly eyeshadow palette ranking video. Today I have a very interesting mix of eyeshadow palettes. Most of these palettes are new to me, some of the absolute new brands to me, and there are a few palettes in this ranking that I already love so much and they come in a specific time of my life. So we're going to talk about all that today. I'm going to show you swatches of these palettes and some of the looks that I created with this palette. Some of these palettes I have made dedicated videos on, and of course I will mention that as we get to them. And then there's a ton of content related to this eyeshadow palettes on my beauty Instagram. I hope you're excited about this video as much as I am, but before we get started, I would love to welcome new visitors and viewers to my channel. Hello, my name is Eve. I love all things beauty. Here on my channel I share about beauty and lifestyle. I upload new videos every week, and if this sounds interesting to you, I hope you enjoyed this video and subscribe to my channel. And now, without further ado, let's dive into this ranking. So the makeup that I'm wearing today, I will of course link for you in the description box as per usual. And this eye makeup look I created for my Instagram reels, so that should be already live when you're watching this video. For this makeup look, I did use one of the palettes that I'm going to be talking about today. Some of these palettes I received on PR, and some brands I have discount codes with, so I will be putting all that information for you on a screen for your reference, and also it's always listed for you in the description box. If you have any additional questions, comments, I always love to chat with you in the comment section below this video. So on the spot number 8, I do have two palettes today that are actually not new to my collection. I've had them for some time. However, the reason why they're both on the last spot today is not for their quality. It's because they have this very specific color stories that I only reach for on a specific particular occasion. So here I have Lost in Los Angeles from BH Cosmetics and Fade into Hue from ColourPop. Both of these palettes are very colorful. The Fade into Hue from ColourPop has quite a few glitter shades here. I usually reach for this as my companion palette. I've had this palette, I want to say, for 2 years in my collection, but the quality is still very, very good. I know this palette is no longer available unless you catch it somewhere else on the secondary market. This is still a palette that I reach for when I need a specific shade, because this palette has some very interesting shades that I really don't have anywhere else in other palettes in my collection. One particular shade that I often reach for is this matte white. This matte white is the best one that I have in my entire collection. But this baby right here, you've seen this palette in my videos multiple times. I often talk about it, but again, this is more of like that artistry palette for me. This is a palette that I reach for on occasion, and that occasion usually is Halloween, and we just had Halloween, and I used the blue row primarily. In my work office, we did a group theme of Inside Out movie. We were all emotions, and I was a sadness emotion. So I'll insert the picture for you here. This is a really nice palette to have on hand. These were the two palettes that I used this time for my Halloween look, and they never fail me. It's just such a good, very pigmented formula. I really enjoyed my Halloween outfit this year. I had a really fun time being in the role of sadness, even though I am nothing but sadness, but that character, I think she's just so adorable. Both of these palettes, even though they take the last spot in today's ranking, they still have a significant place in my collection. Next spot up, I do have another colorful palette. This is Calavera palette from Gourmand Girls. So this palette was inspired by the heritage of the owner of Gourmand Girls, Christina. And this palette was also created in mind with the Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead, a holiday. I feel like the color story definitely encompasses that inspiration very well. This palette is definitely very colorful. You can create so many different looks. To me, this palette definitely falls into a category of artistry. For my taste, for my makeup aesthetics, what I like to wear every day, this is not something that I would reach for too often. I created a very easygoing look, like the most neutral I could possibly create out of this palette, and I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was considerably easy to create, and the shades came together really lovely. And so I do not have a dedicated video on this palette, unfortunately. I wish I did, but this palette was sent to me a day or two before the launch date, or before like their big reveal. Unfortunately, that's not enough time for me to do a dedicated video, especially on such a large palette that could have so many possibilities or options for makeup looks. If I would have more days, I would definitely do a dedicated video on this, but I do have content on my Instagram about this palette. I am considerably new to Gourmand Girls brand. I currently have 3 eyeshadow palettes in my collection from the brand. My favorite so far is the Peach Perfect palette, and I feel like the formula in that palette is different from this one. This palette only has 6 shimmers, and they're also different formulations here, which I will talk about in just a moment, but primarily it's a matte heavy palette. So the mattes feel a little bit more on the drier side. So they're a little bit more technique sensitive. I feel like they pack better than they blend. So that's why I feel like this palette would be a good addition to a collection if you do a lot of like artistic looks, stage looks, if you do cut creases, things like that. But generally the pigment is there. I love that there's a white and black matte shades here. Those are very useful shades to have, especially when you bring such a colorful palette and of this size. Possibilities of looks from this palette are really just the sky is the limit. As far as the shimmers, my favorite shimmers out of the entire palette is this shade right here and this almost like a blue topper shade. From the angle that I look at it, it's purple, but the camera sees it as blue, so it definitely has that like interesting shift. This one is a very interesting shade because it almost has like 4 parts to it. They are like yellow, blue, green, and once you mix it all together, it just gives you this beautiful iridescent multi-dimensional beautiful shade. So those are definitely the most unique ones. This shade right here is one of those like very jelly ones. It has like a mush to it, you know, it's very soft shade and it definitely applies better with a finger, but I feel like it's one of those shades that you need to almost like warm up first and then apply, like buff it into your lids, and then it looks beautiful and smooth. I know I spoke a lot about this palette, but again, I did not do any dedicated videos on this palette, so these were my thoughts. So on the spot number next, I have this palette right here. This is the first palette from the brand. This is brand new brand. It's called Garden Busters by MOST Cosmetics. This palette design is very interesting. I'm not even sure what those are. I think they're like different vegetables, but they're kind of like vegetable monsters. Again, this palette was sent to me much later, like I think 3 or 4 weeks after the palette was even launched. I am very grateful that I got to try the formula. To my best knowledge, by MOST Cosmetics is a sister brand to Odin's Eye. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is as much as I know at the moment. Again, this is a very bright and colorful story. However, there's still some neutrals here. What I wanted to say about this palette is that this has very beautiful formula. This has better formula than I even expected. I mean, I really didn't have many expectations to begin with because it's a completely brand new brand. I think it's pretty fair not to have any expectations in that case, but I did not expect for the formula being this nice. The shimmers are absolutely stunning. The formulation is like very creamy and the shimmers are very sparkly. They're very thin. They apply and adhere to the lid really well. They do not crease, they do not fade. Absolutely beautiful formula. The mattes, even though they're colorful, they're very easy to work with. I did not even expect to have such a neutral look out of this palette. I really thought even if I go with like oranges or greens or yellows, it's still gonna get like somewhat colorful look, but because there is brown here, it actually neutralizes everything so nicely. Even though at first it seems like it's a super colorful palette, and it is, but you can neutralize your look quite a bit. Now that I got a chance to try this formula and know how nice it is for both mattes and shimmers, I'm definitely excited to see what else the brand will bring in the future. On the spot number 5, I do have a palette from Alter Ego, Mist Haven. What a beautiful design. Alter Ego has been doing really cool designs. I really love this format of the like a picture on the front of the packaging. Very cool. Also, this color story is quite neutral and also leaning a cool tone. This is a color story that resembles the Grunge palette from Huda Beauty. That was a holiday edition from last year from them. That's not a palette that I have in my collection. I didn't pick up that one, but I was very happy to play with this color story and got to try it from Alter Ego. And this is definitely a useful color story. It's neutral. I love neutrals, but it's definitely leaning more of a cool tone. I really like how this palette organized. You have all the mattes and they are also organized in like vertical rows. And then you have your shimmers, and then there's also this cream formula. I really like this formulation of the cream because it makes a really beautiful liner that does not fade or does weird things throughout the day. So I've been reaching for this. This palette is also fully magnetic. All the pans come out. This formula is very nice. It's very easy to work with. The shimmers are pretty. This shade right here, this one in the middle, is a beautiful topper. It has like purple, silver shift to it. It's such a beautiful formula. If you love single one and done type of shadows, this is the one that would look beautiful, like ethereal on eyes. Mario viral palettes, eyeshadow palettes come to mind, and we'll talk about Mario in just a second. Gives you grunge, it definitely gives you a smoky eye. Dare I say it's a little bit more of a one-trick pony for me overall. That's probably why I did not get this palette from Huda to begin with, like when she launched it last year. But I think it's a useful palette generally because it's a fully neutral palette and it's just useful. That's all I have to say. And I always recommend alter ego palettes to you guys, because if a color story, a specific color story resonates with you, and if you do not want to spend a high price tag on the original palette, look into alter ego because their formula is really lovely to work with. On the spot number 4 today, I placed a palette that I no longer have in my possession, you guys, and this is Mario, second edition of its kind, Ethereal Eyes Moonlight. This palette just was launched as a surprise to everybody. I don't think anybody expected him to launch a palette out of nowhere. So I do have a dedicated video on this palette. And I'm not going to go into too many details because I definitely want to refer you to that video, because I went into nitty-gritty details. I have put this palette apart down to the bare bones. So if you are interested in this palette, if you're interested to see all my thoughts, please watch the entire video. I had a lot to say. The reason why I no longer have this palette is because I don't think it's a bad quality by all means. Mario mattes are one of the best ones that I've ever got to try. They blend themselves. It's just such a beautiful, like velvety, super blendable formula. You cannot mess them up. If you are absolutely new to makeup, this palette would make your life so much easier. There are 2 different shimmer formulations in that palette, and 2 of those shimmers are beautiful, like ethereal, almost like a fine glitter toppers. They're very beautiful. They give you like that wet look effect on the eye. The reason why I no longer have this palette is because every single look that I created kind of pulls gray, and generally gray is not my favorite color. I don't hate it, but it's also the shade that I use on a very specific occasion with like specific outfits. It has to be a specific mood. It's a very, very rare thing for me to use grays on me. I generally do not love cool tones. Again, like I don't hate them, but it's not like my first natural instinct to reach for cool tone shades. I do naturally prefer more neutral and warmer tones. I do have some cool tone palettes in my collection that I thoroughly enjoy, and I primarily use them like in winter months. Again, it's just not something that I would get too much use of, so I try not to accumulate too many of those cool tone palettes in my collection because they will collect dust at the end of the day or at the end of the year. I didn't purchase that palette so I can just review it and return it. That was not my intention by all means. It was a very hard decision for me to let go of that palette. I definitely wanted to love it. Even though I enjoy the formulations, the entire palette would just pull gray, and I could not justify the price and the color story. It just did not make sense for me. So if you're interested to hear more of my thoughts, more of my very detailed thoughts on this palette, I will have the video linked for you in the description box. On the spot number 3, I have another holiday edition palette, Icy Nude from Huda Beauty. So this is, as it turns out, the last palette from Huda Beauty of its large format. I personally don't believe that she's gonna not make any palettes at all but her 9 pans. My best guess is that she will be making a smaller format, maybe like a 16 pan or a 12 pan, because Mario has been making a 12 pan, Lawless has a 12 pan, and Huda is in Sephora, so this is kind of like their competition. Even Natasha Denona makes a 15 pan palette. She is just one of the bigger palettes, and because the trends are shifting to more of like minimalistic, she is seeing what her competitors are doing, because she is serving you a 10 pan palette for the same price that Mario is charging for his 12. I do have a dedicated video on this palette with 3 look tutorials, and the makeup look that I'm wearing today, I filmed a reel on, but it's made with this Icy Nude palette. This is a neutral palette. It definitely pulls cool tone. It's an interesting color story. It definitely has like a specific mood in it. It's fitting into like the winter launch, going into holidays. This palette definitely has a specific personality, like specific vibe to it. The formula of mattes is very consistent and it's beautiful. This look took me no time. These mattes, especially the dark ones, are so easy to blend. You make like 2 touches and you have a perfect blended dark outer corner. The pigment is there. The formula is so easy to work with. I just love it. I love her mattes. The shimmer formulations here this is where I have mixed feelings about because there are quite few of them. And this is a trend. Huda has been bringing different formulations in all of her larger palettes. That's kind of like her thing, that she would always try to do something innovative with her holiday launches. Like the shimmers that I have on my lid, I really love this shimmer in the inner corner. This is what I have on my lid today. This beautiful like rosy, like a cool tone rosy shade. It's very pretty. This glitter here, it was just such a letdown. It was like the biodegradable glitter. I will tell you guys, for my dedicated video with this palette, I used this glitter as a topper in one of my looks, and I did tell you in the video that my eyes started itching like shortly after I placed it on my eyes. I removed that eye makeup look right after I finished filming. My eyes were so irritated and they were so itchy and watery. I will never be touching this shade ever again, and I do not recommend you do the same. Next time I hear biodegradable glitter anywhere, I don't want to have anything to do with it. This was my first experience with this. I've never tried this formula before. This shimmer also was a letdown. It just feels outdated. It just feels like a dry eyeshadow that's expired. I do have generally mixed feelings about this palette. It has some amazing things in it that I really love about a Huda formula of eyeshadows, and then there's some things that I would like absolutely not, like such a letdown. So that's where I'm at. Okay, these two palettes, they could easily be both a #1 spot, and they excite me. They put a smile back on my face. #2, I decided to go with Nomad Chicago SPEAKEASY palette because she is a beauty. She is such a beautiful formula. I do have a dedicated video on this palette. This palette just, oh, it's a therapy. It's a therapy when I use Nomad formula. I've already said that so many times. Again, I sound like a broken music box. The shimmers are all multi-chromes here, and they're stunning. They're just beautiful. They're reflective. They're smooth. They do not fade or crease. They're just beautiful. I love that there's some neutrality going on here. And these purples, even though I do not love purples at all, these purples are so muted. They're almost like watered down, like grayish purples. They're so flattering. They're so like soft on skin. They're perfect for winter. If I would ever wear a purple, this would be the purple that I would comfortably wear. I love this palette. That's all I have to say. I think it was just very, very beautiful, successful launch. Just filmed my top 15 palettes for fall eyeshadow palette wardrobe, and this palette made the cut definitely because I'm so excited to use this. On the spot #1, I have a palette that has incredible formula, just has incredible color story. My personal humble opinion, because these are the colors that speak to my soul to the fullest. Natasha Cosmetics Barely Basic. Unfortunately, I do not have dedicated video on this palette because again, this palette was delivered to me much later than it was launched or announced, but I do have looks created on my Instagram with this palette, so you can see this palette in action, all the swatches, up close details. All that is on my Instagram. So this palette in person actually much smaller than I thought it was going to be when I saw it on a preview, and I'm actually quite happy about that because I'm running out of storage, y'all, and I have zero intentions to buy more storage for my room. I just want to be able to fit everything that I need into the storage they already have. So I'm happy that this palette is the size that it is. So the pans here are smaller pans than you would normally see in other palettes. All these pans are also magnetic. I really love the shades that are here. So you have some warm tones, you have some cooler tones. These middle rows are absolutely like where I want to be the entire season of fall. I love the greens and I love the warm neutrals. I will take all the pumpkin spice shades I can. The matte formula is so easy to work with. It's beautiful, beautiful formula. And the shimmers, you guys, the shimmers are to die for. They are gorgeous. These ones are all beautiful, bright, iridescent. Maybe the camera make them look that they're all looking the same, like white, but they're actually like colorful, iridescent shades. Overall, I'm very, very happy with this palette. It's definitely worth the price tag that it's in. It's quite pricey palette. Obviously, you can see that the shade is not there. Something very bad happened to it. I tried to take it out with a magnet, and even though the pans are magnetic, the pan didn't come out, but the color portion got stuck to the magnet somehow. It all got shattered into pieces. So I tried to repress it, but so far I hadn't had a success with it. So unfortunately, I think I may be missing this shade, but luckily for me, this is my least favorite shade in the entire palette because like I said, it's like burgundy leaning purple. So I'm not as upset about it. The remaining of the shades I absolutely love, and I would be real upset if it would be anything else in this palette but this shade. So that was my luck. 100% incredible quality. I am now keeping my eyes on the brand, see what else they will bring in the future. Palettes. So these are all the palettes that I got to try lately. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it helpful. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section below. I would love to chat with you there as per usual. Everything will be linked for you in the description box, all the related videos, dedicated videos, my makeup, jewelry, whatever I can. I will have all that info for you in the information box. I am actually very excited for my next round of palettes because some of them I already have been been testing, and then there's few more that are coming my way that I'm so excited about. If you enjoyed this video, enjoy my company today, make sure you give this video a big thumb up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not yet a subscriber, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next videos.